Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about the state of looter shooters in 2022, the first Descendant, Destiny 2, all that kind of good stuff, and where I see the genre going in the future. Now, if you didn't know, I've played pretty much every looter shooter that's came out, from The Division to Destiny, Avengers, Anthem, Outriders, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and the Borderlands franchise. So all of them you could think of, Warframe, any of those games, I've played them. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that I feel like the games are going to be less frequent going forward, and that's a bit of a bummer. As we've seen from games like Anthem, which was really, really, unfortunately, poorly received, and rightfully so, because the game just didn't live up to the hype. But even games like Outriders, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Avengers, all these games have had their various issues at different points, and because of that, I think never capitalized on the massive potential that they do have. One of the things that I hope the first Descendant gets right is understanding that, one, it's taking the long haul. So they have a beta, it's free to play, which I think is absolutely vital for these types of games. And that means that there's less expectations going in. You're not dropping $60. So people don't mind coming back if they drop in, play the game for a while. It's really fun. And then they leave for a bit and then come back. Because these games are never going to have enough content for the most hardcore players, and we see it with MMOs as well. It's just not possible. So, in order to counter that, you almost need to drop with a little bit of something for everybody so that people can play. And one of the things that separated the Division and Destiny was PvP aspects. And not having those means something like Outriders is going to have a limited time frame of when you can jump in and play the game and enjoy it, compared to a game that has like a weekly cadence. So some Avengers right now, in my opinion, has a really good thing going in that they have like monthly or so updates. They have weekly events. You can get to max level just by playing more casual content and the events, but you're going to get there much faster by doing the raids and the end game content. That's the sweet spot. And having a variety of end game. That's something that Destiny does well, but a lot of other games struggle with. So that's where I feel like the first Descendant can learn from those past mistakes, have a base storyline, repeatable content, maybe like a horde mode with leaderboards or end game content. We know Destiny 2 is the pinnacle of looter shooters. You love the game, you hate the game, whatever. Doesn't matter. It is the only one that has lasted for as long as it has, been successful, done really well. Lightfall is coming, so everyone is looking forward to that, and that is going to be a success for sure. The game just adds too much. They do it right. They add subclasses, they add raids, they add dungeons, all that kind of good stuff. So that is something that not every looter shooter is going to be able to compare with. The story, a lot of people are fully invested in the story of Destiny at this point, and so they can't wait to see what happens next. A lot of people are unsure of whether the seasonal model is good, but having played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and Outriders, I will say what happens with the DLC model is you grind initially, everyone gets a max level, you get to the end game content, and then it just kind of dies off compared to the seasonal model where people come back. And if you come back and you log on to Destiny 2, there's a very strong likelihood that, like it or not, you're going to try to play some of the different content on top of just the standard seasonal stuff that you have ready to go. So that, for me, is a big part of why Destiny is successful where these other games fail. These other games, whether they decide to do a seasonal model or a DLC model, you have to have a reason for people to not only log in, stay logged in, but if they leave for a bit, to come back. And that's something that is difficult to do, I will say. I'm not a developer. I don't know how easy that is, but whether it's easy or not, that's the only way these looter shooters are going to be very successful. Now, The counterpoint is this: though. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands apparently greatly outsold expectations. It did very, very well. The DLC was just such a letdown that I feel like that model needs to be rethunk. You launch the initial game, and they absolutely need more variety in endgame. They need their DLCs to matter a little bit more when it comes to not only obtaining loot, but leveling up in the endgame as well. So I just look at Outriders, and the World Slayer expansion was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And for my money, it was absolutely worth it. But a month later, nobody is talking about that game. And that might be a good thing. But it's hard when you position yourself into a situation where, like, we want this game to last, to keep going, for people to keep playing it over the course of time. That is basically impossible unless you continue to add new content or add things in the game for people to chase from their old content. A lot of times that doesn't happen, and people will drop back in when something new drops. Like Marvel's Avengers, people come back when there's a new character, but then after the character is leveled up and they don't have any new content to play, they'll kind of put that game by the wayside as well. Overall, I hope that we see more from looter shooters and also from MMOs in general, MMO lights, whatever the case may be. We're seeing the Division. They're trying to do a bit more with the Division 2. They have the new mode, which is almost like a Tarkov extractor shooter. Not a new mode, new game that's coming out as well in the Division universe. And maybe we'll see people do things a little bit differently with the games going forward and find a way to add the replayability that people are looking forward to with the looter shooters. There's no easy way. Bungie's a massive studio compared to the other ones. And rounding it all back to where I first started, the first Descendant, I think, cannot have the expectations that it's going to be a massive Destiny 2 type game right from the jump. What I can hope is that initially the gameplay loop is satisfying and fun. The game feels rewarding with your loot, with your cosmetics, everything like that. But obviously there's going to be some ways for them to make money, most likely cosmetic. And so in that regards, people have to keep that in mind when the game does drop. They've got to recoup the cost somewhere. They've got to pay their developers. So in order to do that, they're going to have to release a cosmetic system, whether it's a seasonal battle pass, which has worked very well for games like Warzone or Apex, as well as purchasable cosmetics. I think that's the way to go, in my opinion. Even if people don't like it, it's the only way for seasonal model games or free-to-play games to survive and make money, which unfortunately is necessary in this day and age with games. You can't make a game if you don't make any money. It's just not possible. That's not how the world works. So, like it or not, I think the first Descendant has a lot of potential. I think Destiny 2 is going to really shine with Lightfall in February, and I am hopeful that a game comes out like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands or Outriders or any of these number of games that I can add into the rotation that I can be excited about, because we've seen Warframe is better now than it's ever been and improved over the course of time. Fallout 76 has improved over the course of time. If you give these games a chance to grow and build and add more content and add more layers, they're going to get better and better. And that's why the free-to-play model is absolutely necessary. It's a lot of risk, I'm sure, for the developers, but it's the way to go if you're going to have these games build and grow and become what they potentially could be. Because a game like Anthem, if that had been free to play and people didn't drop their $60 and it had fixed itself over time, a lot more people probably flock back to the game before it died off. So that's just my opinion on where looter shooters stand today, why I'm excited about the first Descendant and Destiny 2, and what I'm hopeful for in the future. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more content. And obviously, it's going to be lots of looter shooters on the channel going forward. So definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you can. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.